Those close to him knew him as Christopher Rios. The world and his fans knew him as Big Pun. In the heart of Fordham, family members of late rapper Big Pun making it official, renaming the intersection of Grand Concourse and Fordham Road Big Pun Plaza.
He was raised in the Bronx. He's familia in the Bronx.
Very humble, and I am humbly honored that this is happening.
A celebration, but most of all, a commemoration of more than 2 decades in the making. Big Pun rose to fame in the 90s during the most prominent years of hip-hop. His Grammy-nominated solo album, Capital Punishment, topped the Billboard charts in the late 90s, making him the first solo hip-hop record by a Latino artist to go platinum.
No disrespect to nobody else who are Puerto Rican Latinos. He's our Biggie.
Even though he's not here in the physical, his spirit has been present so much, and he's everywhere.
Big Pun was 28 years old when he died of an apparent heart attack and respiratory failure back in 2000. Some of his more popular hits include Still Not a Player, The Beat Nuts Off the Books, and It's So Hard. His family says the street renaming keeps his memory alive for the younger generation in the borough he loved.
The fact that this is here forever, it means a lot.
In Fordham, Carmen Grant. News.
Judge John Blowie sided with the state in both of his decisions. Blowie denied Michelle Troconis' request for a change of venue. And he also ruled all the charges she faces can be consolidated into one case.
The legal matters against Michelle Troconis will continue to move forward in the Stamford Judicial District. In a ruling Friday, Judge John Blowie wrote, "The court sees no valid basis, either in law or in fact, to order the transfer of these prosecutions to the Hartford Judicial District over the state's objection." Defense attorney John Schoenhorn had asked for a change in venue, arguing the accusations against his client allegedly happened in the Hartford area. Troconis is accused of conspiring with Fotis Dulos to kill his estranged wife, Jennifer Dulos, in her New Canaan home, then helping Dulos get rid of the evidence. Security footage appears to show Troconis with Dulos as he dumped items soaked in Jennifer's blood in a Hartford neighborhood. Police also accused Troconis of initially lying about Dulos' whereabouts the morning of the crime. In Blowie's decision, he wrote, "Each of the charges against Troconis stems from whatever allegedly occurred inside the New Canaan home of Jennifer Farber Dulos." Blowie also noted Troconis and her first attorney agreed to having the case move forward in Stamford each time she was arraigned. Police arrested Troconis 3 times during their investigation. The state wanted to combine all those charges and move forward with a single trial. Blowie also signed off on that in his ruling, writing, "Each allegation is but a branch of a single criminal investigation, in effect a branch of a single tree, that tree being the disappearance and alleged murder of one woman, Jennifer Farber Dulos."
His charges include conspiracy to commit murder, evidence tampering, conspiracy to evidence tamper, and hindering the prosecution. Her next court date is set for May 25th. In the newsroom, Marissa Alter, News 12, Connecticut.
An update now on vaccine tourism in the tri-state area, a concept News 12 first told you about last month. It involves people traveling elsewhere for COVID-19 shots because they can't get them in their home state. News 12 Connecticut's Shosh Bedrosian shows us how some of the most vulnerable in our area are doing whatever they can to get vaccinated.
We've been following how healthy people are trying to get the vaccine, but what about people with comorbidities and underlying conditions in Connecticut? Unlike other states, they're excluded from group prioritization. Here's a look at the steps they've had to take to stay healthy.
Connecticut is leaving the most vulnerable like me. It felt like they were just hanging me out to dry.
The Connecticut vaccine rollout was revised several times, initially with plans to give the vaccine to people with underlying conditions by late February and early March.
We're prioritizing those most at risk, those most likely to suffer the worst consequences.
Then taking it away.
All the questions we had about what should be on the list, what should not, Do I need a doctor's note, or I just self-identify that I have diabetes?
Connecticut went with an age-based approach, saying it was easier than previous scenarios as they proved the prioritization for other groups to be complex, confusing, and slow down the process. Governor Lamont said 96% of COVID-19 deaths in Connecticut occurred in people over the age of 55 years old.
The overwhelming majority of the folks who suffer complications from a comorbidity are over the age of 55. And they're going to be substantially vaccinated, I'd say, within the next week, 10 days.
Leaving no other option for 25-year-old Stephen Puglisi,
Absolutely.
a Connecticut resident who takes an immunosuppressive drug for Crohn's disease to get it elsewhere.
If I get it, then I could easily end up in the hospital.
Which is why Puglisi took a leave of absence from school when cases increased in November.
I live in the only state here which is not vaccinating pre-existing conditions.
And he's not wrong. Team 12 Investigates went online and found states surrounding Connecticut implement some form of prioritization for people with comorbidities or pre-existing conditions in early group phases.
Rather than sitting around trying to determine whose comorbidity is more severe than others, use your judgment. Make room for those who probably are a little bit more at risk.
Instead, Governor Lamont announced on March 15th anyone 16 years and older can get the vaccine starting April 5th, opening the floodgates to thousands of people, leaving it to hospitals and doctors to decide who to prioritize with hopes of them giving the first dose to those most vulnerable.
I said to myself, no matter what happens, I am not going to wait.
Puglisi couldn't live in a bubble any longer and wait his turn to get the vaccine, so
I Googled how to get a vaccine appointment in Pennsylvania at Rite Aid.
Puglisi drove 4 hours with his mother, crossing state lines and staying overnight in a hotel to Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, a non-residency state for the vaccine and places people with underlying conditions in their phase 1A. That's when he got his first dose of the Pfizer shot.
The minute I left the pharmacy, I basically was crying. It was just such an overwhelming sense of relief. It's really indescribable.
Data from the CDC in June points out that hospitalizations are 6 times higher and deaths 12 times higher for COVID-19 patients with underlying conditions. According to Connecticut Department of Public Health, nearly 362,000 people in Connecticut aged 16 to 64 have one or more comorbidity. That's just over 10% of the population.
Even though we might not be a large population, we exist. And it feels like we don't exist in the eyes of the government, and that's extremely frustrating.
Stephen Puglisi heads back to Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania for his second dose tomorrow. We're continuing to follow the journeys people in Connecticut are taking to get the vaccine with underlying conditions, and we'll have much more for you tomorrow night. For now, I'm Shosh Petrosian, News 12.
Laughter is the best medicine, but at long-term care and rehab facilities like Spring Grove here in New Providence, hugs could be the cure to what's been ailing many of the people inside over the last year especially. In fact, this place, quiet right now, it is late and it is cold out. They are tomorrow expecting to have a outdoor visitation, but soon enough, this place and others like it, well, their residents will be getting that in-person contact inside that they've been so desperate for months.
My mom was turned 84 in October, and we had to be on the outside looking in and, holding our hand up. So that was the only way we could touch her.
The many images of families trying to connect with loved ones in long-term care facilities through windows or on iPads have been heartbreaking. Just ask Ginger Vukas, who is a member of the Facebook group FACE, Family Advocate Care Experience, and whose mother has been at a Warren County long-term care facility with dementia since July.
While I was incredibly happy to be able to be there in the quote-unquote window visit, I cried pretty much all the way home because it was just so sad, and I couldn't hug my mom.
She did finally get to hug her mother for the first time in months on Friday, but only because of a compassionate care visit when her mom stopped eating. She knows what today's announcement allowing in-person visits means to those still waiting on the outside.
It is wonderfully awesome to have that physical contact, and I was able to transmit my love to my mom, and she was able to give her love back to me as much as she can in her current cognitive state. I think it's going to be win-win all along. Families are going to be reunited. The isolation is going to end, and there's going to be a lot of happy, smiling faces.
And that simple human touch really does have healing powers, and our prayers are with them. But Marcy, what if the COVID rates are higher in a particular area or facility? What happens then?
Yeah, Roxanne, of course, there are exceptions to this new guidance. If the rates are high in a particular area, visitations are still allowed, but only for those residents who have been vaccinated. And in every situation, masks, you should continue to wear those, especially inside. If a resident or a patient, for instance, is being quarantined or comes down with COVID, that person will not be able to have visits. But otherwise, there's a lot more information still to come on this new guidance, and we hope to get more information as the days go by. Roxanne?
And we keep moving forward with this. It's so important. Marcy, thank you so much. Marcy Rubin reporting.
The Guardian Angels are ramping up patrol efforts here in this predominantly Asian American community along 8th Avenue in the hopes of preventing anyone from falling victim to a hate crime. The signs on the storefronts all along 8th Avenue let you know you're in Brooklyn's Chinatown, a community that is a little more anxious today.
I definitely have that fear in the back of my mind now, where back then I never had it.
Attacks and discrimination on Asian Americans on the rise.
Just recently, one of my friends mentioned that she got harassed, basically, while she was walking her dog, and she didn't know what to do, and she just ran away.
It's the reason earlier today, members of the Guardian Angels were out patrolling these streets, increasing their presence in Asian American communities to prevent attacks, but also respond to incidents should they happen.
The wannabe homeboys, the wannabe thugs are picking on seniors, actually. We're suggesting take your grandparent to that grocery store. Take that parent, grandparent to the doctor visits, because attacks are getting more and more tougher.
Christine Wong is part of the Asian American Guardian Angels. Today, she was passing out flyers in the hopes of recruiting people from the community to teach them to defend themselves.
It's a horrible thing. My advice to everybody is go learn some self-defense and protect yourselves and actually try to build communities within your community.
Now, those members of the Guardian Angels telling me that they're going to increase their presence in these communities as best as they can until these hateful attacks stop. We're in Sunset Park. Arnold Davik, News.
Right now, there are 3 vaccines on the market. Here at Yankee Stadium, there are 2 available. But now, with the expected rollout of a 4th, AstraZeneca is expected to accelerate that production. Starting tomorrow, New Yorkers 50 and older will be allowed to get vaccinated, but it's still hard for many to find an appointment. The expected arrival of another vaccine, though, experts say should help. AstraZeneca's advanced trial shows their vaccine is 79% effective at preventing COVID-19 symptoms and 100% effective in stopping severe disease and hospitalization.
It's really exciting that it's 79% effective. Because what we really need with these vaccines is to keep people as healthy as possible and keep them healthy enough, even if they get infected, that they don't need to be seeking care in a hospital.
And its storage needs could be an advantage compared to its competitors.
AstraZeneca can be stored in a refrigerator, doesn't need freezers, has much more stability at room temperature than some of the others. And is relatively cheap to make.
And to help with vaccine rollout, the governor is calling on houses of worship to offer their sites to be used as vaccination hubs. It's part of the state's Roll Up Your Sleeve campaign to earn the trust of religious communities with the vaccine.
And how can places of worship, Michelle, get involved and obviously offer up their sites if they want to?
Jess, they can go straight to the state's website to sign up. So far, 200 of them have done so, and they're actually slated to start distributing the vaccine next month.
So what is the best way to learn which pharmacies in our area do have the vaccine? Well, News 12's Antoinette Biordi went to find out.
Vaccines are being offered now at local pharmacies, but which ones have it? We made some phone calls for you today to find out.
A little more than 20 pharmacies in Westchester County are offering the vaccine. We called Sunlight Pharmacy on North Broadway in Yonkers. Managers there say they vaccinated 500 people in the past 2.5 weeks.
You guys have vaccines available right now?
As of right now,
dose, we actually ran out.
Even though they ran out of the first dose, they say more doses are coming soon.
It's been unbelievably busy.
We went over to Hudson Pharmacy in Ossining, where they've given out 1,000 vaccines since January. Managers say they've been fielding phone calls and appointments by the hundreds lately.
The phones are off the chain.
Over in Rockland County, City Drug and Spring Valley will have 100 vaccines available later this week, but you can call now to make an appointment.
When will your vaccines be available?
In Orange County, Walmart pharmacies in Middletown and Monroe are taking vaccine appointments over the phone for school employees and those over 60.
Most of the pharmacies are asking that you call them to make an appointment. Others say you can go through their websites. Just another way for you to get a vaccine if you're eligible. Antoinette Bjordy, News 12.
Learned about food insecurity in our area, and we were shocked.
So New Canaan neighbors Tina Kramer and Shawnee Knight took a trip to Costco and loaded up their SUVs with cans of food. Fast forward 7 years, they now run the Norwalk nonprofit, filling in the blanks.
It has grown from our living rooms to a 5,000 square foot warehouse with 2 trucks.
Thanks to donations from the public, they're able to provide meals to 3,000 Fairfield and Westchester County children in need every weekend.
Easy to prepare, shelf-stable food. It's got 4 meals in it, 2 breakfasts, 2 lunches, 4 snacks.
Their work, so important now more than ever amid the pandemic.
We added about 1,000 kids since March of last year.
Now the two are taking their efforts a step further, thanks to a pair of Stanford women who wanted to give back to small businesses hit hard.
They came up with this idea where patrons could go to their restaurant that they enjoy and buy a gift card there, and we would give the gift card to the families that are in our program.
They're hoping to collect enough gift cards for all the kids they serve. Right now, they have a few hundred. That's thanks in part to Joe Hoffman and his company, Cellmark.
We made an initial donation of $5,000, and the 2 restaurants that we selected were partners in public, both Norwalk restaurants.
Going out to dinner is a luxury, so this is allowing some normalcy pre-COVID for these families that might be struggling right now.
In Norwalk, Lauren Fabrizi, News 12, Connecticut.
Honoring Women's History Month this March, and today we're introducing you to a Norwalk pastor who's a pillar of the community. News 12's chief photojournalist Frank Bruce with her story.
Reverend is the title, pastor is what I do. Doctors practice medicine and reverends practice pastoring and gathering and spreading. I'm a U.S. veteran for the United States Air Force, where I served in security forces. I believe it's the young people that have really nudged me to follow my goals, really because of the light they saw in me. We go where the Holy Spirit takes us. Oh, I love Norwalk. It was the most natural thing for me to walk the streets of the city so that I got to understand the lay of the land, and it gave me an opportunity to pay attention to where the gaps were.
Some fruit and vegetables for you.
Many of our community have lost their jobs, and so their basic needs were threatened. And so by providing food through a feeding ministry and provided blessing boxes that gave about 35 to 40 pounds of food that could feed a family of 3, 4 to 5 days for the week, that basic necessity they didn't have to worry about. If we were able to do it just through feeding and making sure people's basic needs were met, then we've done exactly what we were supposed to do. For me, the pandemic has been a blessing. It has been an opportunity for me to get into people's households, to meet people exactly where they are, and be a resource, to really make sure that even though we're isolated from one another, there's a way that we can remain connected. If we can reinstate that connection to the church, it's not about the building, it's about the community. If you can be vaccinated, go and do it. There's still a lot of questions out there, so one of the things that I've been encouraging people to do is to educate themselves so that they can make the best decision for themselves. I have been vaccinated. I have very little symptoms. I think the worst I had was a sore arm.
Our people are in need of food and to be healthy. And I mean,
the reality that I can be an example that every person, especially young women of color, can achieve their goals and sit in seats that have not necessarily been afforded to them, don't necessarily look like them, Just like our new Vice President Kamala Harris, who's now sitting in the White House, it gives us this level of the glass ceiling is cracked. I still see myself as that little brown girl from the Bronx. And I believe it's because of that keeps me grounded and connected to the people who I serve.
November 2016, I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. Came back in 2018, I guess. And then it came back again. They told me, that's it. It's gonna keep coming back.
We did our first walk in 2018. Over $13,000 we raised in 2018. And we were like, what? This year, everything got canceled. They said, we're gonna do virtual. And we said, how do you do a virtual walk?
Right.
You don't. Let's host a mini walk at my house. Outside, masks.
What's better than walking around your own neighborhood doing this?
And that's what we did. We raised over $15,000. We did not win top team, which I was so upset about.
I have 3 children and they're very competitive.
Liz, this is what it pays off.
My kids and my family, my friends, they've all been amazing. They all came out and they supported me and it really touched me.
You can't actively cure cancer, but you can help raise funds to do
Exactly. My mom is my best friend. She's everything. I can't really be specific because it's literally, she's everything.
Well, Liz, after this interview, I think you're going to have the support of so many more Long Islanders, and it's going to help. It's going to help.
Amazing.
Seated at this $196,000 Steinway concert grand piano, Lee Sandberg is a long way from the electric Yamaha that's his only keyboard at home. And mentally, at least, he's also a long way from those days in recent months responding to COVID call after COVID call as a volunteer EMT with Princeton First Aid and Rescue Squad and a volunteer firefighter in Princeton. And that is just the point of this day, as Jacobs Music Company opened its showroom to amateur pianists who also happen to be frontline first responders or medical workers, to thank them by giving them the chance to play the kind of piano most people will play their entire lives without ever getting a chance to sit down at.
Yeah, I mean, this is far and away one of the most storied pianos that I'll ever even lay eyes on, and the thought to actually play it, I mean, every now and then I'll be able to sneak into practice rooms or places with a piano backstage in an auditorium. I've been kicked off multiple pianos, playing in hotel lobbies.
I think of when the pandemic hit, most of us huddled at home with our families to be safe. And not Lee. Lee runs into the fire, literally, and deals with sick people every day. So it's the least we could do is give them the opportunity to play and express themselves on such a unique instrument.
In a way, the scene here summed up the state of music over the past year. Many of the pianos here are ones that have been used in concert venues, silenced by the pandemic. The Steinway Sandberg is playing was used by Yu-Ja Wang at Princeton's McCarter Theater, and it's been used by the Philadelphia Orchestra as well. It's now being sold in this newly opened showroom. At the same time, music has provided so much comfort for music lovers and amateur musicians like Sandberg.
Music really provides that outlet to explore, think, reflect, and it's an experience where you can really just find that peace despite the circumstances around you.
Even more so when you're given the chance of a lifetime to play an instrument like this one. I'm Brian Donahue. That's Positively New Jersey.
After graduating from the Fashion Institute of Technology in 2016, Dynasty Casanova was ready to embark on her design career. She realized quickly it wasn't what she expected.
I'm telling you right now, it's very toxic. You leave very late. There's no work-life balance. And I wasn't really happy in it.
Then everything changed in an instant during the pandemic.
Found out I was pregnant. My full-time freelance design job ended.
It turned out to be a blessing in disguise.
Really just motivated by my son, that I knew that I wanted him to see his mom fulfill her dream.
The East New York mom moved forward, building the clothing brand
Dynasty George.
with sustainably sourced fabric.
Fabric that would have been thrown away or burned, because a lot of times big fashion brands overproduce textiles.
The 26-year-old raised $6,000 to start her business and found a manufacturer in India. Due to the pandemic, garment workers industry-wide have been taking a pay cut, but she wouldn't allow it.
I told them, I was like, hey, like, I'll pay full price. Like, don't try and give me a discount. Like, whatever price you give me, that's the price I'm going to pay, just so that everyone's paid what you're living.
And we're done.
You're done?
Even though she winced a bit, 106-year-old Alice Banner says getting her second dose of the Pfizer vaccine was a piece of cake.
Easy, no trouble. I know prayed for it.
The community served by One Brooklyn Health System at Brookdale had some of the highest rates of infection during the pandemic. This is a bright moment after a painful year for registered nurse Ursula Edwards.
And it's a totally different attitude because now we're saving lives. It's better, we're happier, it's an exciting time.
The patients register with the state, come in and show their ID, learn of potential side effects, then sit down for 15 minutes following the shot. Kara Noel has heard painful stories from frontline workers and felt this was her way to give back.
Devastation that they've seen is sobering. And so if I can do my part to help end this pandemic, I'm going to do whatever I can.
And we've drawn up 0.3 mLs.
The pharmacists prep the doses hours before anyone comes in.
Thing is stored at the correct temperature, and you also have to make sure it's at the right temperature when you start mixing. So you gotta have the right ingredients.
The hospital has a streamlined process to avoid any waste of the vaccine.
The most waste we had was 2 doses, and we will always find people to take those 2 extra doses.
For any missed appointments, there is a wait list, and staff ensures it goes to those who qualify first. In Brownsville, Katie Vasquez, News 12.
Even as COVID cases start to thaw, the demand for food at Meals on Wheels in Rockland County remains double what it was before the pandemic began, with an even
Culture.
Hi, News 12.
I just won The Voice.
Community.
The first shot went into the arm of Port Washington nurse Sandra Lindsay.
Connections.
Seems like so much fun.
It was pretty hectic.
Discover News 12 New York.
Hey, look, we're happy, right?
A new way to see the best of News 12's local channels from across the tri-state area, all in one place. Now streaming 24/7 on your favorite devices. Discover News 12 New York today.